You're being sabotaged and you don't even know it. Look, I get it. You're grinding every day, putting in the hours and the work. You're chasing that dream of financial freedom, impact, and the life you want. But here's the harsh truth. Most entrepreneurs fail not because of competition or market research. They fail first because of invisible traps in their own minds. These bugs in your code are sneaky and they can have detrimental impact to your success. The worst part is they can carry over between many businesses. So a lot of times it's not the business, it's you. Today, I'm gonna expose some of them. 6 psychological secrets that are really holding you back. These aren't the kind of things you hear about every day, but I promise you they'll hit home because they did for me. We're gonna talk about why you're obsessed with success stories, why you can't focus, and why you keep switching tasks so often. And on top of that, how this and other problems are keeping you in the mud. But here's the best part. I'm not just gonna tell you what the traps are. I'm gonna show you how to beat them. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to first recognize them, understand why they're important, and make the changes to prevent them in the future. Number 1, survivorship bias. When I first started, I'd scroll Instagram and see people crushing it. A 21-year-old in Bali that made $100,000 in revenue this month. And I thought, well, if they can do it and it's that easy, why can't I? Does that sound familiar to you? But here's the deal. You're seeing the wins, but you're not seeing the losses. This is called survivorship bias, and it's wrecking your mindset. This comes from a story in World War II. Engineers were studying planes that came back from missions and looking at the bullet damage obtained by these aircraft. They wanted to reinforce the areas that were getting riddled with bullets so they could have a better chance of survival in the future. Sounds pretty logical, right? Well, not really. You see, the planes they should be focusing on aren't the ones that survive and come back, but the ones that didn't. They actually had damage in the areas that the surviving planes didn't. So the areas they were reinforcing weren't the right areas to be focused on. That makes the plane survive even with that much damage. The planes that didn't survive obtained damage in the areas they weren't looking for. So be very careful about what's in front of you. Survivorship bias blinds you to the planes and the mistakes that you don't see in the spotlight, but are still lurking. When you look at the Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk in the world, you think success is just inevitable if you put in work. But what about the 90% of startups that fail? What about the person working 80 hours a week, maxing his credit cards, and still closing up shop? Focusing only on success stories gives you a warped sense of reality. When I first launched the business, I didn't think I could fail because I kept reading about overnight successes. So I skipped the boring stuff like validating my product or asking my customers what they actually wanted. I thought just hustle would make it work. Spoiler alert, it didn't. I lost probably about $4,000 to $5,000 in 2 months just from not finding the best fit and rushing too fast into things without looking carefully. But that's when I learned the best reality. Every failure is a lesson if you pay attention. So how do you fix this? Well, ask yourself, am I planning for the worst case scenario or am I trying to be the exception? I want you to research how most people in your industry do and what the biggest probability of success will be in your venture. For example, in real estate, maybe it's finding bad tenants, not screening them properly, bad landscaping or maintenance on the property in the long term. Figuring out which specific issue is the most likely in your area is probably going to lead to a higher chance of success because you're planning for the problems and not the good outcomes. When you stop living in fantasy land, you start to realize that success isn't doing everything. It's doing the right things, which brings us into the next trap. Number 2, shiny object syndrome. Let's talk about distractions. You know the feeling. You're scrolling through TikTok and everyone's hyping up the next big idea. Crypto, NFTs, Dogecoin, stocks, whatever it is. AI tools are the future. You gotta get into crypto. And before you know it, you're diving into something headfirst without even understanding the principal part of the business. That's shiny object syndrome. And out of all of these, this is the one I know the best. I mean, think about it. Nowadays, your attention span because of those platforms is already so low that the willingness you have to see something you like and take action and not stay with it is very high because your brain's in that ADHD state a lot more. Studies show when you switch tasks constantly, you have a 40% greater reduction in your brain's productivity. That's not just some number, it's time, focus, and at the right level, money you're throwing away. So instead of doubling down on what's already working, you're chasing 10 different things, and you're wondering why nothing tends to pan out. When I first started, I tried everything, running the Instagram promo page, affiliate marketing, e-commerce, whatever it was gonna be, but I wasn't actually that successful. It wasn't until the first business, Daredevil, where I actually spent countless weeks, months, and a couple of years working on the project until I started to see consistent sales. But it wasn't probably until the year point where I dropped everything else and stopped trying to be successful in, fitness branding and personal influencing and everything up to that point. The focus, that's what separates the amateurs from the pros. Use an Eisenhower matrix. Categorize the tasks: urgent, important, not important, etc. Just delegate or delete the stuff that doesn't matter right now. I would recommend quarterly goals. Set 90-day goals for yourself. Every day I want you to ask yourself and look at the calendar, is this aligning with this goal? If not, get rid of it. When you master focus, the next challenge is playing the long game. And here's where most of us screw up. We want the quick wins. So let's fix that. Number 3, hyperbolic discounting. Let's get real, we're all guilty of this. You should spend the next 2 hours on a task that's high value, like building an email funnel or reaching out to clients, but you're scrolling TikTok. You're doing it because TikTok's easier. That's hyperbolic discounting. Your brain prioritizing what feels good now versus what matters in the long term. Humans are wired for instant gratification. You can read so many studies on this. It's why you're gonna pick short-term rewards like Netflix and chilling over grinding and working. A lot of people have this mental masturbation of starting a business, creating the logo, maybe picking out the color font, designing the website, the easy stuff. Meanwhile, the big scary tasks that move your business forward, getting on the phone and calling someone, following up on emails, really making an impact on getting your product sold, that's gonna sit untouched. When I was doing this wholesaling stuff, I'd spend so long analyzing the deal rather than talking to the seller, the person that decides. Talking on the phone, I'd realize that a lot of deals I was wasting my time on. And I would spend half an hour looking at a property that wouldn't shake out for me. One day I looked at myself and thought, well, property research isn't gonna pay the bills unless I have a deal. That's when I flipped the script. Here's how to fix it. Look at yourself 5 years from now, just briefly. What is that version of you wish you worked on today? Let that guide your priorities, and when you're setting that 90-day goal, really factor that in. Long-term goals are probably gonna feel very overwhelming for you. I want you to visualize it by breaking down the individual tasks that lead up to that, and that's what you plan your shorter 90-day phases around. When you start focusing on the long term, another trap shows up. Unfinished tasks taking up your mental space. So let's clear that clutter. Number 4, the Zeigarnik effect. Have you ever started a million things at once and all of a sudden your brain's running circles around things you didn't finish? Your brain treats unfinished tasks like debt you have to repay. It kind of nags at you as something you owe until it's paid off. This was discovered in 1927 by psychologist Bluna Zeigarnik. She found that people remember unfinished tasks more than finished ones. Entrepreneurs feel this all the time. We always have to get the next thing done. This was actually found to be a really good thing for students, right? If you stop studying in the middle of something important and go shoot hoops or play video games and come back to it, it's probably gonna stick in your head a little bit longer because you were in the middle of learning about it. But it can really cost you if there are tasks that are always gonna be coming on your plate. You start 5 things but finish none. Now you're anxious, distracted, maybe even a little depressed and wondering why nothing's getting done. The best way to minimize your tabs in your brain is minimize your actual tabs. Stop focusing on 20 different actual tabs on your computer. Just pick one thing and keep that tab open until you finish. Take that same mentality and apply it to everything else. It helps if you have an organized calendar. Pick one block of time and schedule one activity for that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it's gonna be. Do not allow any distractions and turn your phone in focus mode unless it's absolutely necessary. Also, group tasks like calls and emails in the similar block. Knock them all out in one session. And I would also recommend the 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it right now. If not, schedule it for later. The best way to clear your head is to have somebody else remember what you have to do. So get really comfortable using a calendar like Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar to start clearing up your mental capacity. Now that your head's clear, let's talk about fear. Specifically, why you're still avoiding big risks. That fear, it can be another mental trap. Number 5. Loss aversion. Research shows that losing feels twice as painful as winning feels good. This is loss aversion, and it's why many entrepreneurs play small when they should be taking big swings. Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman pointed this out in their Nobel Prize. They proved that people avoid risk, even when the potential outweighs the downside. Sound familiar? You stick with a failing strategy because you've already invested time and money. Think about the stock market. If you've ever traded it, you probably stay in losing trades because you want it to recover, not because you think you should just take your losses and try it another day. Or you avoid doubling down on marketing because you're scared of wasting time and resources. I once ran a campaign for a client that just flopped. Instead of cutting my losses, I kept throwing money at it because I didn't want to admit it was a failure. Looking back, I should have pulled the plug sooner and redirected my efforts toward new outcomes. I did actually, in the long term, I came back and refunded the client the money, but it was about 6 months later. I didn't have to do it, but it was a symbol of my appreciation for the fact that they helped me learn an important lesson. And obviously since then, we've hired quite a bit of a team and expanded our reach to be consistently setting goals and knowing when to put money in and stop so we can guarantee success for the people we work with. So how do you beat it? Have a data-driven mindset. Decide based on the numbers, not emotion. Second, before stepping into anything, define success. It shouldn't be fluid. I've made that mistake. For me, success on a stock trade might be at hitting 105, but then when it hits 105, I might want it to be 108, and then it'll crash to below 100 and I'll lose money. Decide specifically what number and what outcome means your success, but don't make it unreasonable. Start small and slowly grow it over time. Again, the 90-day plan is a great measure because it's actually attainable and achievable and aligns with the SMART goal framework. And even if you take risks and win, there's still one final task that can leave you feeling empty. So to get into number 6, let's talk about it. Hedonic adaptation. You hit your revenue goal for the month, $1,000 a month on your business, 5,000, 10,000, 50. It feels amazing too. You can go online and say, I'm the guy that makes money, I've done it, screw all you haters, and you can flex those results. Probably for about a week. Then it's on to the next goal. You have to start getting realistic again. That's hedonic adaptation. Your brain gets used to successes and it adapts it for the next high. That's how drugs exactly work on your brain. You take a small dose and your brain gets hooked on it and it needs more to feel the same amount. You're gonna do the same exact thing in your business, even though ideally this is a better result than taking drugs. Sonia Lumbor-Miski is a psychologist that kind of figured this out. She found that humans adapt quickly to positive and negative changes. It's why even major wins, like selling or buying the dream house, lose excitement over time. You're stuck on a treadmill, running 10 minutes, asking yourself why you can't run 12 instead of being grateful when your goal was 8 minutes. I want you to think about this saying. You've probably already achieved what you said would make you happy. Maybe it's graduating from high school or college and getting that job or buying that new car. You've probably done some of that in the past. Is it still as exciting as the same day you started it? Probably not. The way to fix this one, pretty simple. Gratitude. Reflect daily in some way on what you've achieved. I don't even write this down much anymore. I'll do it in the shower a lot of times. Gratitude rewires your brain to focus on the positives, not the amount of the positive. I like doing this in the shower because it kind of just lets my mind think and be emotional in a time when I don't have anything else to do. Focus on growth, learning, and mastery. What makes your business successful is the numbers. What makes you successful for the business is being emotional and recognizing how to control those. These 6 traps, they're not just obstacles. They're chains holding you back before you can really even start running in the race. But chains are meant to be broken. And now, I just gave you the bolt cutter to do just that. If you're done letting these chains hold you back, it's seriously time to take the next step. That's where the Ascend Collective comes in. It's a movement, a community of people just like you, ready to take action, to crush the limiting beliefs and join a community of people that are also doing the same thing. Because that social aspect is what drives success, not isolating yourself. It's not for everyone. It's only for the people that know what they want and are tired of losing and falling victim to traps like these. We teach you the mindset, the physical aspect, the financial aspect, and the social and relationship side to master how you interact with the world around you, so you can fix yourself to be the best machine to put into your business. Don't just watch videos like this or click the next one and nod along. Eventually, I want you to take action, to get off YouTube and finally find something that works for you. But the Ascend Collective is your best step in that journey. We don't just talk about success, we create it together. Click the link below, join the collective while it's still free. And finally, let's rewrite the story. No excuses, no distractions, just results. I'll see you on the inside.